The following podcast is a Sempronto Media production.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode, and we have an exciting guest. Her name is Chef Katie Simmons, and we are going to talk all about the plant-based diet and how to overcome overeating and how to overcome obesity. So welcome, Chef Katie.
Thank you so much for having me, Chantel. I'm really excited to be here.
So let's kind of dive deep a little bit about why people are just getting into these habits of overeating in the first place.
Yeah, I think, we ask ourselves, why are we overeating? And there can be a lot of shame and guilt associated with it. But it really comes down to these addictive foods. And we develop these eating habits very early on in life, eating foods that are addictive. And the reason they are addictive is often because they are refined foods. So foods that are highly manufactured, highly processed, and they are designed to get us addicted and to get us to eat more and more and want more and even crave them. So I think that's one of the biggest things is understanding that we overeat and we gain weight and it's not our fault. And to start there and then to look at our diet and where can we get rid of those addictions that we have to food.
So tell us a little bit about your personal journey and how you were overweight at one point and then you've kind of turned yourself around.
Yeah, I was overweight my entire life until I was about 30 years old. And I was definitely addicted to sugar and all sorts of frozen desserts and pastries and cake and cookies. And I would have what was called obsessive eating and then compulsive exercising, where I would eat uncontrollably to the point of feeling sick, and then try to make up for it the next day by spending hours at the gym. And this went on my whole life. And this was a habit I had, a routine, a behavior, until I was about 30 years old. And I got into culinary school and started cooking. And I started working in a restaurant where we made everything from scratch. So we made the bread from scratch. We made all the salad dressings from scratch. And it was a restaurant that specialized even in desserts. So even the pastries and donuts were still made from scratch. And we went to the farmer's market every weekend and got the freshest, most in-season stuff. And it really changed my taste. And I started understanding what real food tastes like. And naturally, just by working in this restaurant and cutting my addictions to those processed foods, to those things that we're told are supposed to be healthy for us. And, the things like health bars and granola bars or cereal that's supposed to be good for us and full of protein and full of fiber and all those kind of foods and getting back to like what real food tastes like. I naturally lost about 20 pounds that way. And then I continued exploring food and diet and was introduced to plant-based eating, or AKA vegan eating, but also it's oil-free and free of refined foods. And I started eating plant-based as a dare. Somebody dared me to do it. And I lost a lot of weight. And over the course of transitioning completely to plant-based, I've now lost about 50 pounds. And I've kept it off for the past 7 years. And more importantly, I've cut those addictive food habits and I don't feel that compulsion to overeat.
I looked on your website and you've got some really amazing recipes on there. I saw that you had a vegan hearts of palm ceviche salad that looks so good and a plant-based coconut mango tropical fruit crumble that looks so good. So I want you to talk about what is kind of your number one recipe that you would say for the either like a salad or like a savory dish, and then what's your number one most popular dessert that you would say that you do?
Right now, it kind of changes with the seasons, but I would definitely say right now it's all about salads and quick and easy. So I have like a Buddha bowl salad that is quinoa and black beans and corn and avocado. That has been my go-to meal for the past couple of months. And I also love doing meal prep. So during the winter and the fall, when it starts to get colder and we want those bigger, heartier meals, I love doing stuffed sweet potatoes. And I'll make a big batch on the weekend. I'll stuff a bunch of sweet potatoes and then stuff them with all kinds of things. So I really love doing this like Asian take on it with broccoli and soy sauce, and a little bit of red chili paste. But I also do it with like blackberries and blueberries for like a breakfast that I'll eat. So I love those kind of like, you either plan ahead and make a big batch of it, or something that's quick and easy. And favorite desserts. I mean, everybody loves dessert, and everybody loves chocolate. So I have these Black Forest brownies on there. They're awesome. And it's made with black beans as your base. And that really gives the brownie structure. And then you use whole wheat pastry flour and you use dates as your natural sweetener instead of using sugar or refined sweetener. So that all comes together. And then I like to add dried cherries and a little bit of coconut flake in there. And they're pretty awesome. I've served them to friends at parties and they're like, wait, these are vegan? I'm like, yeah, they are. It's kind of fun and delicious. Yeah.
So I want to talk about, how did you become an oil-free vegan? Because at this point, you don't cook with oil. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So let's talk about that for just a second. And a lot of people are, on this great train of, having a lot of fat, good, healthy fat, avocado oil, olive oil, making sure that you have that oil to keep you satiated and full. So what is your opinion about oil, and why is it? I mean, do you ever use oil, or you just don't ever do it?
I don't. I don't. I don't. Rare instance might be if I'm making pancakes and I'm using a pan where they're going to stick. But otherwise, I cook oil free. And it really comes down to calorie density for me. So 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. And that's about 2 apples. It's a banana. It's about 5 pounds of spinach. It's 120 calories is nothing. And it's so hard to burn off 120 calories. You have to run more than a mile to make it happen. And so it's these empty calories that at the end of the day, they add up. And honestly, people think that fat is really satisfying. There's a role for healthy fat in the diet, and whole avocados are good because there's fiber and there's other nutrition in there. But oil is only fat. There's no fiber. There's no protein. There's no nutrition. And what really makes you feel satisfied and gives you long-lasting satiety is going to be fiber. And a lot of us are not getting enough of that in our diet. So eating more fruits and veggies and more of your whole grains, that's what's going to give you long-lasting energy versus, 400 calories of oil that go right through you or they go right through your thighs. And they really don't nourish you in the same way that whole foods will nourish you.
Now, you used to be a former dancer in choreography. So how did you transition, which I, by the way, was the captain of a cheerleading squad. And I was also on a very big dance team. And so how did you go from dancing and choreography? And I also used to teach at Fred Astaire Dance Studios. I did ballroom dancing. So how did you fall in love with the art of cooking?
It's kind of funny. I feel like I'm dancing all the time in the kitchen. And cooking very, very much feels like choreography to me. If you think of an intricate dish, so think of like a dish you go to a nice restaurant, and there might be a sauce on the bottom, and that's one step or one component of the dance. then you might have a beautiful roasted vegetable on top of that. And that's another component of the dance. And then you're going to have some perfectly cooked farro or barley or whole grains. And you might top it with like a sprinkle of gomesio or some sort of spice seasoning mix. And there's all these different components. And as chef, it's my job to make sure they all come together and work beautifully and look beautiful. And as you know, as a dancer and choreographer and somebody who's worked in the field, that creation will only last a few moments. And then it's gone. And like, even if you have it on tape or even if I take a photo of it, the goal is how can I recreate that? And how can I even make it better the next time? So as an artist, it's that kind of creative drive that I think it's in all the arts, whether it's dancing or culinary arts.
Hey guys, one of the things that will take your weight loss to the next level is coaching. You can either work one-on-one with me or one of our certified private coaches. If you'd like, you can schedule your free call. It's a 10-minute strategy call just to see if coaching is going to really take you to the next level. Don't just take my word for it. Listen to this recent review a happy coaching client sent in.
Thanks so much for your help and guidance. I never could have done it without you.
The other thing is listening to the audiobook. Listening to the audiobook and getting the video course that I've done, people are seeing dramatic results. If you just listen to the audiobook 30 minutes a day over and over and over again and get the video course, go to chantelrayway.com and check out the video course. You won't be sorry you did. So now, how do you spend your time? Like, I know that you do some personal chef things. I know you also have some virtual cooking classes and so forth. So, how does your time kind of lay out like that? Like, do you spend half your time doing, personal chef type cooking and then do the rest of the time kind of with your online version?
My main time is spent as a personal chef cooking for families in Chicago. And the same kind of cooking we're talking about as far as going more whole foods and using whole ingredients. That's the majority of my time. And then I get to play a little bit more with doing online cooking classes. Right now, I'm not doing anything in person because in Chicago, we're just still kind of on lockdown. But doing more virtual cooking classes and doing events and network with farmers and other personal chefs. So most of my time is spent in the kitchen cooking for families. And then I get to spend like what you would probably think of as the weekend, your nights, where you get to play and teach. And I also do nutrition coaching, which is really fun. So yeah, I kind of like 75-25.
Awesome. So tell listeners, as far as protein goes, a lot of people are constantly saying, how do I get enough protein in my diet? Because we've heard, you've got to have protein, And so how do you feel? Like, how is your health as far as the fact that you're not having any meat? And how are you getting your B12?
That was one of the big concerns I first raised when I went plant-based. I'm a very active person. I teach fitness classes. I run a lot, like 9 or 10 mile runs. I like to lift weights. And so when I was first introduced to plant-based, I said, how in the world am I going to have enough energy for my runs? I'm going to feel weak. My muscles are going to go away. And I was working with a nutritionist who basically just said, trust me and trust the diet. And I look at science more. And the truth is, most average women, you only need about 45 grams of protein a day. For most men, it's about 55 grams of protein. And if you're eating whole foods, you're going to get that protein. You're going to get it from your broccoli, from your whole grains, from your beans, your lentils, your corn. I also love getting it from like chickpea pasta and lentil pasta. I make salad dressing using tofu. There's so many ways to get protein. And now that I'm used to it, I definitely feel like I'm doing fine on protein. I'm not worried about it at all. For someone who is more concerned or has had any medical concerns in the past, track your food. You can go onto any sort of diet calorie tracker and track enter in what you eat in a day and see how much protein you are eating. And that'll give you a really good understanding of where you are and where your needs might be on that whole scale. You also asked about B12, which is another big concern. And the funniest thing is, like, no matter whether you eat meat or you don't, there is B12 deficiency throughout this country. And it comes down to like how B12 is made. It's made by microorganisms in the soil. And we are such a sanitized country with everything we eat, the meat, the milk, the dairy, everything is so sanitized that a lot of us aren't absorbing B12. So I supplement, and I just did a little bit of research to find a good supplement that's well trusted and doesn't have any extra ingredients in it. And I take one a day and that's it. And it's pretty easy and pretty simple. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of a plant-based diet, but I'm not a fan of 100% of plant-based diet because of that. Because like to me, I feel like in my mind, I'm like, okay, if God really wanted us to be plant-based, then 100%, then we wouldn't have to take a B12 supplement in order to live and to function. And B12 deficiency is huge. Like B12 protects your nervous system, and without it, you can have permanent damage. You could have blindness, deafness, dementia. You can have fatigue. And so I'm don't get me wrong, I'm a big plant-based. I mean, I would say probably 80% of my diet is vegan, and I don't have dairy. I'm like a big proponent against dairy because I think that there's just so many problems with our dairy, with what they do with the pasteurization process just destroys that dairy so much. So I would say 70 to 80% of my diet is plant-based, but I'm not 100% plant-based because of that reason, because I think that B12, and even though I still have meat, I still supplement with B12 because I think it's a really big one. I have a great B12 complex on my things I love on my website that's really, really good. So anything else that you would say, like how it's helped you as far as your health goes, being vegan and plant-based?
Yeah, I think we probably relate to it a lot. The first thing I noticed when I gave up dairy is my skin changed and my bloating went away. And so that was like one of those immediate changes that happened within that first month. And I just felt better all the time. And as I've continued to eat more and more plant-based, my energy has felt even better. I'm sleeping better. I feel stronger. I feel better about the environment and my impact on, what's going on in our food system. And it also has really helped me cut those addictive eating habits. So getting away from the refined foods, getting away from meats and dairy that I used to crave, going more plant-based has really helped cut that. And what you said is great. It's like if you want to go 100%, great, go for it. But for most of us, we're not there, and it's like, so the more you can add plant-based whole foods to your diet, the better you're going to be. So even if it's just adding a cup of spinach to your pasta, even if it's just adding a handful of broccoli to your salad, or adding a couple of extra apples that you eat instead of going for a granola bar. So starting to eat those whole foods, the foods that don't have nutrition labels, just adding those to your diet, it's really going to help you make steps and towards feeling better.
Hey guys, I wanted to tell you I'm offering a free weight loss virtual Bible study. Now is the perfect time to focus on understanding true hunger and fullness and learn what the Bible has to say about it. All you have to do is go to chantelrayway.com/Bible study. After you sign up, you'll receive a 6-week Bible study video that you can watch on your own, or you can get a small group of people and do it together. That's chantelrayway.com/Bible study for your free 6-week Bible study course. And are you 100% gluten-free as well?
I'm not. I still eat gluten on occasion, and
And you're okay. It doesn't bother you.
It depends on the occasion. It's been very interesting. I notice if I eat organic gluten, I don't have a reaction, but sometimes I've been out and I don't know if it's like, I'll have a beer and sometimes I have a reaction to that. And I don't know if it's the gluten or if there's something else going on. So I'm still in the process of investigating that. But yeah.
Well, I love that a lot of your recipes are like, I'm a big fan of plant-based, but really with vegetables, like I love like the one recipe I saw in there, you had like a Thai spicy vegan spaghetti squash stir fry that was like, instead of noodles, you're eating spaghetti squash and just with tons of veggies in there. That looks delicious. I can't wait to try that. That looks amazing. But just figuring out how do I put, because for me, like if I had pasta, even though it's plant-based, for me, that gluten, my joints are going to start hurting. I'm not going to feel great. So I know how I feel when I eat vegetables and tons of them. I'm feeling like $1,000,000.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have so many options nowadays. I eat chickpea pasta. So it's naturally gluten-free and it's got extra protein. So as much as we're like, I don't eat much gluten and I understand that it has, it can really inflame your joints and really have a reaction. So naturally finding other options that are out there. We live in a great world. We already have so many foods available. And adding all of those fresh, colorful vegetables, just the more you can eat, the better you're going to feel. Mm-hmm.
Now, I saw on there you have I am obsessed. You have like a bunch of different fruit crumbles on there with a bunch of different fruits and then with like a crumble topping on top. Mm-hmm. And so give us some tips of how do you make that oil free without it, like sticking to the pan and still having that kind of buttery taste.
Yeah. So the biggest savior in the plant-based world of going oil-free is going to be your nuts and seeds. And so if you think about those, richer nuts like cashews and macadamia nuts, they're going to have that buttery flavor and texture that you're used to with oil. But the bonus is when you eat nuts, you're also going to get key nutrition from them. So you're going to get fiber, you're going to get selenium and magnesium, and you also get more flavor, which is awesome. As a chef, I love the flavor of macadamia nuts. So I just blend that in with like oat flour, which is gluten-free, and then dates, which are your sweetener, and that makes a little crumble topping. So it's just kind of, you're switching your brain, go from butter to cashews, and you start just changing things over. And then have fun with it.
I love it. Well, this has been great. Tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you. And I want you to talk about some of those virtual cooking classes that you have.
Right. Thanks, Chantel. So people can find my website at plantsrule.com, where it's 100% oil-free plant-based recipes. And I'm also on Instagram pretty much every day at Chef Katie Simmons. And I'll post videos and easy recipe ideas and quick stuff every day. And I also do virtual cooking classes. So no matter where you are in the country, we can set up and get cooking. It's been really fun doing this with families who are, kind of split up and in different cities and coming together, and we'll cook a virtual cooking class. We'll make dinner all together, and then everybody gets to eat and hang out afterwards. So it's really fun. You can email me through my website or through Instagram. And thanks. This has been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you guys stay tuned. We have another episode coming up in just a bit. And don't forget, if you have a question that you want answered, go to questions@chantelrayway.com. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
This has been a Sempronto Media production.